I'm a high school senior, which means I have spent countless hours trying to squeeze my entire identity onto a few measly lines on a page. The process was agonizing because I had to choose which aspect of my personality I would present to different colleges. After writing my college essay, I showed it to my parents and a few of my friends, and was left in shock when the most common comment I received was, "It's just not you." I found myself frustrated that so many people that I talked to were trying to tell me that this particular essay was an inaccurate representation of myself, all for different reasons. I thought, how is it that the people closest to me in my life, people that are supposed to know me best, disagree with me so much on how I perceive my own identity? Then I realized that these people have not seen me in the moments that I value the most. Yes, they have seen me where I am behaving comfortably as myself, but as an artist who is constantly searching for new ways to express myself, they haven't seen me during the moments where I'm struck by a new idea, scribbling storyboards for a film, or losing track of time as I immerse myself in the dialogue for a script I'm writing. Even though nobody sees me in these moments, they are still a part of me that is tied directly to the future I want for myself. What if I told you that our deepest desires are unobservable to others, even ourselves? What others say we want, or even what we think we want, likely don't add up to who we really are as people. If the way we articulate our personalities is less about how we perceive ourselves and more about how we actually act when pursuing a goal, we can define ourselves more in terms of what we truly want. Especially when it comes to how we behave in a professional environment, we often feel pressured to categorize ourselves in a certain way. We know that perceptions of ourselves and others are guaranteed to be rooted in bias. If that's the case, then what is the most objective way we can perceive ourselves? According to the National Library of Medicine, personality traits are organized by the Big Five taxonomy: conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, agreeableness, and openness to experience. A person could have a lot of extroversion while not at all being conscientious. So, how do we know where we fall under these categories? The last person we should ask is ourself. That's right, I would never ask you to describe your own degree of agreeableness, bias, neuroticism, or openness to experience, just as you shouldn't ask me what my own personality traits are. According to Stanford Psychology, our perceptions of our own personality are wrong. In 3 studies, individuals repeatedly rated themselves as less biased than their peers. Turns out, the majority of Americans are biased in believing that they are less biased than the average American. Similarly to the way people tend to overestimate their own creativity or intelligence, we are also biased in having primarily positive personality traits. If I were to ask you if you are very agreeable, open to experience, generous, or chill, you would most likely say, yeah, I think I'm pretty chill. If I were to ask you if you are very neurotic, biased, or closed-minded, what do you think you're going to say? I'm very disagreeable, manipulative, weak-minded, have no self-control, and do not stick to my beliefs. Of course you're not going to say that. And based on the I'm not biased bias that most people experience, you're probably not as honest with yourself as you think you are. So if we can't trust ourselves to define our own personality, can we trust the people who are closest to us? Our best friends or our family members must be reliable sources, right? You may think those people see us in our most unfiltered states and behavior, but the truth is, those people have their own bias. While your best friends are generally more accurate than you are in identifying your own habits and personality, they have a strong positivity bias. The entire reason they're best friends with you is, in general, because you have a lot in common with them, you associate them with positive experience, you put each other in a good mood, and they are under more pressure to see you in a good light. In a study by the American Psychological Association, our friends are more likely to overestimate our agreeableness, intelligence, or creativity. Meanwhile, it's quite obvious that the way you behave in front of your parents may not be the way you behave when they're not looking at you. Parents also have a lot of self-projection. Since a parent's children are reflective of themselves, they may hyper-focus on the positive traits of their child or the good values they believe they taught them. Meanwhile, there are parents who lean towards the opposite. They may be overly critical of their children because they are so focused on promoting their growth and improvement. So, if we can't rely on ourselves or our closest friends and family, who can we trust? As demonstrated by 16 studies conducted by the American Psychological Association, people's co-workers are more adept at recognizing an individual's personality traits in a professional environment than the person themselves and their family and friends. The co-workers are often more than twice as accurate. This is because your co-workers can see things that you and those close to you don't realize or refuse to realize about yourself. There's a quote by Adam Grant, a writer for The Atlantic, that says, "People know themselves best when it comes to traits that are tough to observe and easy to admit. While there are certainly countless aspects about yourself that only you yourself know, these ultimately aren't the traits that will matter in working life." Grant studied different tactics to increase self-awareness in the workplace so that employees can actually recognize their own personalities. He found that in order for a person to truly get to know oneself and others, place them in a high-intensity environment in which they strongly desire something. For example, when astronauts need to get to know each other before spending months or years together in isolation, they don't use icebreakers or self-evaluation surveys. When Grant talked to a crew of astronauts who went to the International Space Station together, he found that NASA had actually sent the crew out into the wilderness for 11 days together, and their guide permitted them to get lost. They came out of the experience knowing one another better than colleagues they'd worked with for years. Then, when they evaluated their teammates on traits such as agreeableness, optimism, critical thinking, openness to experience, conscientiousness, etc., the results were incredibly accurate and lined up consistently with future situations. This is because, when under pressure, humans resort to their baseline instincts. They don't have time to construct a personality according to what they believe is needed. This concept applies to multiple aspects of life. When we watch a TV show or read a book, often the strongest way of learning about a character is putting them in high-pressure situations in which they really want something. I have written short stories, plays, and short films and can testify that the best way to write and reveal something about a character to an audience is not to create a list of personality traits that we plug into the story. Instead, I ask, what does this character want and how are they going to get it? Essentially, even though we can describe ourselves by how we interact with our friends or family or how we perceive ourselves, it is desire that reveals who we truly are. So, the next time you're trying to present yourself through a college essay, a job application, or a life-altering decision, strip away the thoughts and perceptions of those around you. Instead, think about your values and the way you behave when you are under pressure to seek what you truly want. Thank you.